1. We've done 2 methods so far for solving these quadratics. Sometimes quadratic equations are not factorable and cannot be solved by square roots. In these situations, we're going to use something called the quadratic formula. This method, the quadratic formula method, works for solving all quadratic equations, which is great because that means we can always use it. However, it is kind of like a long process to do, so we don't always like to do it. That's why I taught you square roots. That's why I taught you factoring, because it's not always the most efficient. The quadratic formula is right here in this box. This is something you are expected to have memorized. It's x equals negative b plus or minus, that's an important part, the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. And you might be thinking, Miss Lise, where do those numbers come from? Well, if we think about an equation in standard form, 0 equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Then those a, b, and c values, a, that's where these a's come from. B, that's where these b's come from. And then c, that's where that c comes from. The important thing to note, and the thing that I've been emphasizing this whole time, is that your equation has to be equal to 0 first before we can actually plug anything into it. So, there is a bunch of different ways to help you memorize this formula. Algebra 1 students have been doing this for years and years. So a lot of people make fun little videos. I'm going to show you a couple of them. Very exciting stuff. So, with that being said, let's take a look at how we actually use this formula. So I'm going to take a look at A. The most important thing we need to make sure that we do before we start setting this up is that it says equals 0, which it already does in A. So that's nice. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what are my A, B, and C values. The A value here is 1. The B value here is negative 2. And the C value is negative 8. Everybody good with those? Now, I told you that there's notation points on this quiz and this test, which means I'm expecting that you have good notation. So follow the notation that I'm using. I need to rewrite this entire formula starting with the x equals. Then I will do negative. And every single time I plug a number in, you have to put the number in parentheses. If you are not doing that, you are getting notation points taken off. So this is parentheses, negative 2, because that's my b value, plus or minus the square root of b, which is negative 2, squared, minus 4, and again, I'm plugging a new thing in, times 1, times c, which is negative 8. All divided by, look at how the fraction bar goes underneath the entire thing. 2 times a, which is 1. This is the proper notation that I need to see every single time. And if yours does not look like mine, you will lose points. Is that clear? Then, so this is like a full point in itself, is knowing how to plug things in, but then also you need to simplify correctly to earn your final points. How many answers usually do we get when we solve these equations? Usually we get 2. So keep that in mind as we're starting to simplify and solve and try to figure out where are those 2 answers about to come from. So we're going to simplify. And every simplifying step that I do, I'm rewriting the entire thing. I cannot skimp out on writing everything down. Every step gets fully rewritten. So negative 2 is 2, plus or minus. I like to do the stuff on the outside first, so 2 times 1 is 2. The square root is the hardest thing to simplify, so I usually save that for after I simplify the easy stuff. So negative 2 squared is 4. And then here's how I think about this. I think about this negative or this minus 4 as like one big negative 4. So I think of this as negative 4 times 1 times negative 8, which is positive 32. So I should have a plus 32 here. If you don't do this and you just do this like, if you just do 4 times 1 times negative 8, you get a negative 32, but then a lot of times we forget about this negative. So just remember, minus is a positive. Good with that? I got one more simplifying step I can do here. So again, I'm going to rewrite the entire thing. I am not just going to rewrite the parts that I'm simplifying. So this is the square root of 36. And then again, do we know what the square root of 36 is? It's just 6. So again, I'm going to rewrite the entire thing. 2 plus or minus 6 divided by 2. And now everything is kind of simplified. I just have regular old numbers. I don't have anything I can add or multiply or subtract together. From here, how do we think we get 2 answers? James. This plus or minus gives us 2 options. So you're going to split your problem into 2 different problems. I have x equals 2 plus 6 over 2. And then your second option is x equals 2 minus 6 over 2. And then each one gets solved. So this is x equals 8 over 2 or x equals 4. This one is x equals negative 4 over 2 or x equals negative 2. That is a lot of work for one problem. Is everybody okay with all the steps we just did, Branson? Yes, you do. Multiple times. Chaz? A few. 2 or 3. Okay. Letter B. What do we have to do first? Cody? We got to get it to equal 0, so I'm subtracting 8 from both sides. 7x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. That's what I'm looking for. And then I need A, B, and C. A is what? B is, and C is. So then I plug it in. X equals what? Look at your formula up here. Negative B, which is negative 2. So I'm doing the plugging in step. I am not simplifying until I've got everything plugged in. Plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 7 times negative 8. Sometimes you have to extend your little square root symbol to fit. That's okay. And then it's all over what? 2 times 7. Every single thing that I've plugged in is in parentheses. I've written the entire thing. All my notation is good here. This is worth a full point. Questions on that? Then we can start to simplify. When I simplify, I'm rewriting the entire thing. So I'm going to start with x squared. Negative 2 becomes positive 2. Plus or minus. I'm going to do the bottom as well. 2 times 7 is 14. Then I simplify the radical because I like saving the hardest part for last. Negative 2 squared. Anytime we square something, I should get a positive number. So if your calculator is telling you it's a negative, it's because you did not put parentheses around it like I told you to. Minus. Can somebody tell me what 4 times 7 times negative 8 is? 324. Is that going to be a positive 324 or a negative 324? Or is it going to be plus 324 or minus 324, I should say? It should be plus 324. Because this is negative, 2 negatives make a positive. Good? Another simplifying step. 224? Okay, 224, sorry. Another simplifying step. Every time I do a simplifying step, I'm rewriting the entire thing. So this is now 228 in here over 14. And then think about what we did in that last problem. We got the square root of 36, and we were able to make that 6. Does 228 have a square root that's perfect? No, it doesn't. So what are we going to do? We are going to simplify this in my calculator, and we're going to round it to 2 decimal places. So let's go ahead and open up the calculator. I am literally just typing in the square root of 228 into my calculator. If you have a weird calculator like mine, you're probably going to get a radical in there. But the decimal approximation of this, rounded to 2 decimal places, is 15.10. Okay, because we're rounding up. So 15.10 is what's going to go in my equation here. 2 plus or minus 15.1, or sorry, 0.10. All over 14. Everybody good with that? 2 decimal places. Then how do I finish solving this? Remember, I need 2 answers. How do I get those 2 answers? 1 plus x equals 2 plus 15.10 over 14. And then the other one is going to be x equals 2 minus 15.10 over 14. Okay, here's another hint. We can do this in our calculator as well. When we plug this part into our calculator, I want us to be putting this top part in parentheses. If you do not put the top part in parentheses, your answer will be wrong. So you either do it step by step or put it in parentheses. We can plug the whole thing into my calculator. So let's take 2 plus 15.1 over 14, which looks like this. In parentheses, 2 plus 15.10, end parentheses, all divided by 14. You have to. 1.22. Oops. And then again for 2 minus 15.10. Negative 0.94. Two answers. Any questions on this right now? Am I ready to solve this equation? What do I have to do to it first? We got to subtract 21 from both sides. I know I'm subtracting because no sign means it's a positive. So this is x squared minus 4x minus 29 equals 0. I need to find A, B, and C. What's A? What's B? What's C? And then my equation. X equals, help me out. I'm doing the plugging in step. So what starts it? Negative, negative 4. Then what? I'm missing something first. Plus or minus. Square root. Negative 4 what? Squared. Okay, somebody other than James. Then what? What comes after the b squared? Should be on the top of your papers. What comes next? Negative. Keep going. Perfect. Okay, there's my numerator. What goes on the bottom? What goes in the denominator? 2 times? Perfect. Oh, it is negative 29. Thank you. Everybody got this. Everybody understands where these numbers are coming from. Now we're going to simplify. Again, I'm rewriting the whole thing. Negative negative 4 becomes positive 4. Plus or minus the square root. I'm going to save that for in a second. 2 times 1 is 2. Let's simplify my square root together. What's negative 4 squared? Positive 16. What's negative 4 times 1 times negative 29? Anybody? Plus or minus 160? Is it actually 160? Okay. A 116. That makes more sense. Okay. I'm rewriting again. 4 plus or minus the square root of 132 over 2. Does 132 have a nice perfect square? It does not. So let's plug it into our calculator. Let's do the square root of 132 and round it to how many decimals? 2 decimals, 11.49. Okay, I'm simplified. Now what? Now what? We gotta split it into x equals 4 plus 11.49 over 2. And x equals 4 minus 11.49 over 2. Again, I'm going to plug this all into my calculator. I'm going to put the top part in parentheses so I know that I'm dividing that entire thing by 2. Let's get 2 answers. 4 plus 11.49 divided by 2. And then 4 minus 11.49. There's my 2 answers. 7.75 and negative 3.75. Any questions on how we got there? I don't think so. Negative 3.75. Any questions?